Welcome to the Thundercloud, and I'm sorry that I do not yet hold the ability to, I don't know, speed up a 2 minute timer. I don't have that ability yet, Sage. But thank you for thinking of me like a godlike cretin that I am near becoming. Today we had two lousy teams, two of the lousiest teams in the league agreeing to a trade that will see Jermaine Johnson II shipped out from the New York Jets to the Tennessee Titans in exchange for Tavondre Sweat. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to hold off on my opinion on who I think won the trade until after we kind of dig into this a little bit. So let's just dig our heels in. Let's look at what each player brings to the table. Now, my understanding, based on my sources out of Tennessee and Nashville, I've got many of them that reside down there. Apparently, Robert Salah and company, they're switching. They're switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3. So they didn't necessarily see the need for a 6'4", 366-pound man to be a defensive tackle. All right, and I will say, makes sense. You probably want to have a more traditional tackle that weighs, I don't know, 300, 310 pounds, somewhere in that range. I would even say 330 is way too much for a tackle in a 4-3D, and probably even 320, potentially a bit too much. But 320, probably the most that you want. 325. 366, definitely a bit too much. But you are looking at a player here who was drafted in the second round just a couple of seasons ago, and he's been productive. He was, I believe, fifth, just based on my research. He was ranked somewhere around fifth or top fifth in terms of stuff in the run, which I certainly like. I mean, you got to be able to stuff the run. So, I mean, being top five at your position, that's certainly good. And I think he was ranked 20th last year in terms of pass rush for that position. Now, we're not talking pass rush for. Well, maybe we are. I don't know. I'd have to read it. I'm not going to read it. I don't give a shit to read it, so I'm not going to read it. Anyways, you're talking about a guy that's really talented. 2 sacks, 12 games, doesn't like jump off the paper at you, but it's a nose tackle. And this is, if this isn't the truest nose tackle that I've ever heard of, then there is no true nose tackle. Back when the Packers drafted B.J. Raji, when he was, I think it was 2009 at a Boston College, and he weighed 337, 339, and he went on to have a year where he had 6.5 sacks. You know, having those nose tackles in a 3-4 especially is important, but 4-3 I definitely think he would not have produced as well, but he was 12th in defensive player of the year as a rookie. He is still 2 years control before you have to think about extending him to a contract. So Jermaine Johnson's a little bit different. Jermaine Johnson, I believe, is on his fifth year option, I believe. Then he'll be a free agent. So if you're picking up Jermaine Johnson, you're definitely thinking you want to like potentially sign him as a 26-year-old to an extension. Now he's going to definitely be a defensive end with the Jets, or if they're in 3-4 sets, an outside linebacker. But there's a big risk here for the Titans, in my opinion. Back in 2023, before he sustained a serious injury, he did have 7.5 sacks. It's not worth noting he was a Pro Bowler, because 7.5 sacks to me isn't worthy of being a Pro Bowler if you just look at that. Did have 16 QB hits that year, and he did have pretty good tackle production as well. Like 55 combination tackles is not bad. Then 2024, obviously the serious injury limits him to 2 games, no sacks. Then this year, I mean, you're only looking at 3 sacks, 43 tackles in 14 total games, 13 started. So that's why I'm saying huge risk here for Jermaine Johnson. Does he fit what the Jets or what the Titans are going to do in a 4-3 scheme better than a 3-4? I would say definitely. Is it going to help him that he is reuniting with Robert Salah, who was the guy who did get him his best production at 7.5 sacks as a 24-year-old? I would say absolutely it's going to help him. Like worst case, what is Jermaine Johnson? I mean, worst case, you're looking at a very good third edge rusher on your team. And you can't have too much of them. Jermaine Johnson was a guy that I wanted back when we traded Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I was hoping we could get him as one of the big pieces. So I have followed him a little bit, and I do like Jermaine Johnson. Now, the only problem I have, I mean, edge rushers, you do value edge rushers more than nose tackles. I'm going to be honest with you. You definitely do. The only thing is, though, is I feel like this guy's actually 27 next year. He basically is going to cost you a lot of money if you re-up him. You can't even re-up him right now because right now you don't know who the hell he is. So you got to basically give him time and then let him test free agency or give him a few weeks, see if he's doing good, then re-sign him to, a 4-year deal, that sort of thing. So I just feel like there's huge risk here for Tennessee. I feel like there's huge risk here and huge risk, but at least they're trading from a position that's not as valued for a premium position. So I do like that for Tennessee. To me, if this would have been like a slam dunk trade for Tennessee, they would have gotten some draft compensation back because Tavondre Sweat's going to be cheap the next few years. I get probably what did lower his trade value, though, is the fact that he's 370 pounds and he had no role on this team. So I get that's probably why they have to settle for just the player, and they're not settling for a bad player. So I think that I think it's a good fit. I think Robert Salah can get Jermaine Johnson going. Just depends if he comes back, well from that injury. But he's definitely what he's done last year doesn't come close to 2023. So hopefully he didn't lose too much explosiveness. Now, Sage, did I sum that up well? Was there any points you wanted to make or anything you wanted to challenge me on? Because I know you like to challenge me, and then you end up looking like a goddamn fucking idiot. What do you think of the trade, Sage? This is your team. I literally did a stream just for you. We are going to await his reply. He's probably mashing his keyboard as we speak in disgust. Sage says, I like it. 4-3 defensive tackles are easier to find. They are easier to find than 3-4 nose tackles, I would say for sure. The only thing is where are you going to find it? Okay, you got Jeffrey Simmons. I don't know your team, so you can help me out a little bit here. You've got Jeffrey Simmons as a defensive tackle, right? You've got Jermaine Johnson. Who else do you have on the line right now? Because it's not a very deep defensive tackle free agency. Unless you end up overpaying for a guy like Kenny Clark, who's going to probably get released by Dallas. That's an option. Sebastian Joseph Day fits better. So is Sebastian Joseph Day a member of Tennessee right now, or is he a free agent? It sounds like he's a member of your team, and I do remember him being a pretty solid player. Okay, so you got Sebastian fucking Bach, and you got fucking Jeffrey Simmons. Okay, you think he's going to get re-signed? Sebastian Joseph Day. Okay, so you've got Sebastian Joseph Day, Jeffrey Simmons. you're going to look for someone else to pair with those two, I would assume, right? And then you got Jermaine Johnson on the edge. And then who's on the other side right now, other than a draft pick, which we know you guys have a good draft pick, so you could potentially just do that at the draft. But I'm just asking, who else do you have to pair with Jermaine Johnson? I'm just trying to understand your defensive line a bit better, and then, maybe I'll understand the trade a bit better too. Because I'm not a Tennessee guy. I'm certainly not a New York Jets guy. Arden Key, but he kind of sucks. Okay, but you guys are picking, what, third or fourth in the draft, or second or something? You guys are picking pretty high up there. I'm going to guess that you guys are mocked either for an offensive tackle or a defensive lineman. And probably by defensive lineman, we're talking edge, would be my guess with your first pick in the draft. Robin Bain will likely be a Titan if available. Okay, so you guys are picking third then, aren't you? It's Oakland and New York in front of you at the draft, right? Okay, so you guys are picking 4. Well, 4 is typically a spot you're going to get a premium edge rusher potentially. The only problem this year is the quarterback class is so damn bad, especially with that Dan Moore guy, deciding to go back, that you're going to end up not having quite as much fall to you that would have normally fall to you in other years. And this isn't really a draft to trade up in, because the 2027 draft is going to be a hell of a lot better than this draft. So I would just kind of stay where you're at 4, if not trade back a little bit. So, okay, yeah, you're going to be looking for... So you're going to be looking for an edge rusher to start out. Okay, well, that helps me understand the trade a bit more. You guys are also in this trade for the Tennessee Titans, you guys needed pass rush because it looks like you had no one. Absolutely no one. I'd say wide receiver, and I think you guys are going to look to the trenches as well. I think you're definitely going to want to keep Cam Ward upright, so I think wide receiver is going to be there. Offensive lineman. But it does seem like, yeah, you guys, especially with a Robert Salah, you're going to want a good defensive line to start. So I would guarantee that you guys are going to, in the first round, take a defensive lineman. And I would say 2 of your first 3 or 4 picks in the draft will be defensive linemen. Then I would say wide receiver. And then I would say offensive line. And I think you guys are better off if you still draft your wide receiver. That's fine. I think a guy like Romeo Doubs makes a lot of sense for the New England Patriots and the Tennessee Titans. He just seems to make a lot of sense. He's going to get paid. I understand that. But I'm telling you, that is just a guy that catches the ball. He's not special. He's not going to burn you down the field. He runs good routes. He's tough. Looks like a good guy. You cut Cushenberry, so I wouldn't be surprised if they throw a ton of money at Linderbaum. Well, Linderbaum is going to get extremely overpaid this year. And it's potentially, I don't know if it's going to reset the market, but he's going to be the highest paid center of all time by a lot. And it potentially will reset the market because they might start looking at centers more valuably, start looking at the more like guards are treated too. So, I mean, Linderbaum, I would say if you're able to add him, but every other team almost is going to be interested in him, obviously, because he is a good center. If you're able to add him, then it's one less thing on your checkbook, your tick list to kind of go through. So Linderbaum, to me, going to be a hot commodity. And what's he going to make, 22 a year or more? Got 22 or more. He's going to make, we're talking foolish fucking money for Linderbaum. Like, if that fucking left tackle who sucks for Pittsburgh last year gets paid like $20.5 million per year, and I know it's left tackle, but you obviously got to value guys that are elite or close to elite or very good at their position. more than fucking guys that are just average at a coveted position. We'll say. Throw the cash around if you guys want to. If you guys really want though, throw that cash at Dobbs so we can get a good compensatory pick. Pay him as much as you need to, and you can take him. Give us our goddamn compensation pick. But yeah, we'll prepare some things. I will probably over the weekend start kind of looking at the free agents a little bit. Start kind of looking at where some landing spots would be. Like I'll start looking at team needs, all that stuff, so we can start getting things going a little bit. Mostly though, I'll mock the Packers and I'll sometimes mock the Titans. But I'm not really in the business of mocking a bunch of shit because we can talk about rumors all day. It doesn't matter. If you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I don't want to be some sort of a bitch that doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So, yeah, with the Packers, I can be educated. I can tell you there's going to be another guy that you might want as your center. If you want a cheap center or you want to put him in a guard, Elgton Jenkins is going to get cut by the Packers. So if you need a guard or a shitty center, sign him to a 1 year fucking $4 or $5 million contract. There you go. Do it cheap if you want, but I wouldn't do it for center because he was terrible at center last year, to be honest with you. All right, I believe we've covered that trade about as much as we could. We do have baseball shit that I want to talk about, so we're gonna mix it in. Last night when I was on the precipice of greatness and Slay the Spire, where I did beat Act 4 in just under 2 hours. It was brought to my attention by a journalist here at the Thundercloud that the Blue Jays had signed Max Scherzer to a 1 year deal, base value of $3 million. And we did not know at the time what the incentives were for. Well, now we do know what the incentives are for, so I'll just quickly break it down. $1 million if Max Scherzer gets 65 innings, an additional $1 million for 75, $1 million for 85, $1 million for 95, $1 million for 105, $1 million for 115, obviously another $1 million for 125, $1 million for 135, 145, and 155. So pretty decently structured contract. I think it's not a bad contract for either side, and it's kind of nice that it's based on performance because with the amount of depth that the Blue Jays do have, if you're going 155 innings, we got injured and we needed him, or B, he was pitching well and we needed him, or C, both. You never know. But I didn't really want to spend too much time on his contract structure. Just wanted to bring that out since it was posted earlier tonight. I think it was Bob Nightingale or some shit like that. But I do kind of want to try to take a look at like how this is all going to unfold, where he's going to fit in, because the Blue Jays do have a plethora of pitching. So let's look at the rotation and let's just try to piece this son of a bitch together. So as it currently stands, you've got Shane Bieber injured. Now, Shane Bieber has been doing a long toss up to 120 feet. He's not going to be ready for opening day, but he should be ready for fairly early in the season. I mean, maybe he misses half a month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks tops would be my guess. They want to be, he wasn't supposed to pitch as many innings as he did last year. He pitched 88 innings because the Jays made a deep postseason drive. So they're going to be careful with Shane Bieber. So Shane Bieber starts on the injured list, which does open up opportunities for a few guys on the roster. Now, as it currently stands, you kind of in no particular order of who's going to start. We don't know. They might switch this shit around. Like you might put Dylan Cease as your one. I'm not trying to predict who's starting where, but you got Kevin Gausman. Well, it's pretty safe to say Kevin Gausman is going to be pitching for the Jays, and you're not going to be moving him around anywhere. So Kevin Gausman's in the rotation. Dylan Cease, I mean, they paid him $210 million. Pretty safe to say he's going to be in the rotation as well. Trey Savage, I do want to spend a bit more time on him after, but he's obviously going to be on the roster. He pitched, like a gem last year. He's one of our top prospects. He's going to be up this year. Jose Barrios, interesting story. Pitched okay last year. We'll get to him in a second. They had Cody Pounce, who we signed from over in, I think, Japan or Korea, one of those fucking leagues. So that's your top five. Now, you're going to have a couple others. Obviously, you got Shane Bieber in that fold. You've got Max Scherzer, who I think is going to be the sixth starter to start the year. And then behind that, very, very, very nice problem to have, you've got Eric Lauer. Because, as Mark Shapiro likes to say, you need 9 starters to get through a season. Well, there's 8 of them right there. And if you look at the minors, if you can count on Ricky Tiderman to make it up, well then, that would potentially be an option there. Now, Jake Bloss isn't going to make it up, it doesn't look like, until later in the year. He had, surgery last May. So, an option later in the season. So, right now, obviously, I think Max Scherzer starts as your 6th starter. And then I really like the fact that it's going to be dependent upon performance. So as much as I like Trey Savage, there's problems. He hasn't had his arm built up, so they're still going to be babying him a little bit. And you don't know if he's going to go into a slump and have to be sent down, work on mechanics, that sort of thing. If it can happen to Roy Halladay, it can happen to Trey Savage. So I like that there's a bit of stability there by bringing in Max Scherzer. Now, Jose Barrios, again, was okay last year. Pretty solid early in the year, and then later, the training wheels fell off, and he fell off his bicycle. Should be okay, but there's kind of question marks there with his performance. So the only guys you're not really questioning is Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, because you're questioning Shane Bieber's health. You're questioning Trey Savage and his youth, I guess you would say it, just to put it up there. You're questioning Jose Barrios as a, how good he's going to do. Like, he'll do good, but is he going to do great? Is he worthy of a top 5? We'll see. And then Cody Pounce, I mean, that's great. He was the MVP of a league overseas, but that doesn't necessarily mean a goddamn thing. So there's tons of uncertainty here, whether it be injury, performance, whatever. So Max Scherzer coming in, I mean, it does help kind of stabilize that a little bit. Now, if things go as planned, and you got Eric Lauer if fucking things go really bad, which is kind of nice having Eric Lauer, not going to lie. So great depth at the starting rotation. Really like what we got there. But down the line, like, we're if Shane Bieber's back, right? Because I feel like we're going to go with a 6-man rotation. I really do feel like we're going with a 6-man rotation for a while, especially with Shane Bieber, limiting Trey Savage's innings, that sort of thing. The other thing, too, is like if Trey Savage starts looking like shit and you've got Eric Lauer and fucking Max Scherzer in your bullpen, say maybe Max Scherzer's in there for Tommy Nance, right? Okay, well, Trey Savage needs a day off, an extra, week off or what have you. Well, you just put Max Scherzer in there, so there's a bit of flexibility. It's going to be certainly weird seeing Max Scherzer operate potentially out of the bullpen as a long reliever or as a mid reliever or both, or even in high leverage situations, depending. It's going to be weird, but I mean, is he 42 years old? I'm pretty sure he's 42 years old this season, so he's going to have to be flexible, and I think he did come back because he wants a chance to win a championship here. So it's a very interesting rotation. We're going to see if there's any drama. Now, I wouldn't trade any of our rotation right now. Like, someone might be like, oh, let's trade Jose Barrios. Well, I don't think it's the right time. It's like having too many good offensive linemen in football. You need them. People are going to get injured. Keep eight, and just see what happens, in my opinion. Now, if you get certain pieces in a Jose Barrios trade, then of course I would make it. I'm not saying you can't trade him. I'm just saying it has to be for something that makes sense. Cannot just be to kind of cash out on him and not have to pay him sort of thing. Only other thing Blue Jays to go over is I guess Eloy Jimenez has been looking great. A lot of people expect that he might make the roster. We'll see what happens there. Again, I'm not really watching the minor leagues. I'm not making speculations other than like real shit, like the rotation. We know who's really on the team. We don't necessarily know who's going to make the team that's like in the minors, right? So I'm not going to speculate too much on that, but we will kind of break that shit as needed there. But yeah, I mean, I think a very interesting trade today between Tennessee and the Jets, and a very interesting move by the Blue Jays. It does make me wonder how interested they were in Framber Valdez. Not saying it's that bad that we got Max Scherzer, but just kind of interested now to see like were we really interested as much as some people reported. But it is time to get the hell out of here. We will tomorrow. Trying to think. We will be back tomorrow, dependent upon if anything big happens in sports, we'll definitely do a stream, or B, if I'm feeling like getting my ass kicked in I almost said Don't Starve in fucking Dark Souls, but if not, we'll definitely be back on Saturday, and I will beat the rest of Dark Souls that day. All right, Sage, you guys made a terrible trade. Have a good night, guys.